Everyone. This is my watch list for Thursday, March 26th. All right, so what happened yesterday? SPY popped up into that supply area again, 661 to 662, and failed, right? It was a bit of a choppy session yesterday, but the general trend was to the downside, and now we are gapping down again off of that supply, all right? So what's the level today? It's 650. This was the low from Tuesday. If we lose 650, we can push all the way back into these Friday lows, these lows over here from the pre-market Monday into 645, even down to 642, all right? So those are the levels to the downside. If we break below 650, I'm watching for that continued downside into the lower 640s, okay? Upside, if we start reclaiming levels, like reclaiming previous day low, 654, we can look for upside if we are showing squeeze momentum. If not, then we can look for failures, right? We can look for failures off 654, 655 for short since the market is gapping down, right? Bias today is pretty set as we are gapping down. I'll be looking primarily for shorts, either pop and fade into 654, 655, or shorts below the 650 level, okay? QQQ, same thing. It's 582, right? This was the low from Tuesday as well. It's also the pre-market low here today. If we break below 582, we can sell back into these previous Friday lows, 578. And if we break below that, then we can sell into these pre-market lows from Monday, 574. All right. Again, general trend of the market right now, we zoom out, it's a downtrend. Okay. So as long as we're staying below these supply levels, we're below 592 or below 596, then I'll be looking for shorts on the Qs either below 582 or again, pop in a previous day low, which is Wednesday, and look for pops into this 586 for shorts on the Qs, right? We're gapping down. Let's remain short bias unless we start reclaiming levels, okay? So 586, pop and fade level on the Qs, below 582, can also look for shorts back into 578, all right? Let's go through some individuals, all right? Apple, the level is 255. I caught a nice trade on this yesterday at 253 for the push back into 254.60. It's about $1.60 move. I wound up making almost 20%, like 19% on that trade. And then it just kind of faded for the rest of the day. So I trailed out of my runners. And now Apple has failed that supply, right? This is still a valid level. If at some point this week or next week we get over 255, I do like longs. But if that doesn't happen, then I'm not really interested in taking this. We can potentially look for shorts even. If this breaks back below 250, we could see some selling back into the mid 245s. So that's something to keep in mind, but I'm not interested in longs unless this breaks above 255 at this point, okay? AMD is an interesting one. This ripped. We talked about this, right? I said if we break above 206, it's going to 216, and yesterday it went to 221, all right? Massive move. It was hard to catch. It just ripped off the open. It was like it went from 210 to 216 in one candle. It's a $6 candle. Those kind of moves are hard to catch, all right? But that's fine. We can still look for a pullback. We can look for pullback longs, or we can look for the break over 220. 220 was the gap fill level. This is the big daily gap fill. 220 has room into 235. That's a $15 potential move, okay? So 220 goes to 235. If we break over that, I'll be watching that. It's a break over previous day high as well. And we can look for longs there, or we can look for pullback longs. And that's actually something that I would be more interested in. I think we can get better value if we pull back into 209. Right, we pull back into 209, then we can catch the bounce there, back into 220, okay? That's something that I'm definitely interested in watching today, especially if market pulls back, then we should get that demand bounce on AMD at 209, okay? Amazon failed supply. Amazon failed that Monday high, right, 213. 213 at this point is the only thing that I'd be interested in. If it gets back above 213, can look for longs. If we get under 207, it's a short again. Remember, this is the 207 level we took short last Friday. Brett and I took short on Amazon, and that's the short level. So if Amazon fails this supply at 213, which it's starting to do, and we get back under 207, we can look for shorts again into this 202 level from Monday, okay? Google, not watching anything. Meta's at demand, guys. Meta's at major demand back here from November. Right here, we bounce as well. I'm not really interested in taking this short or long. You kind of want to see how it reacts to that demand first, right? Do we get some sort of flush and reclaim of 580? Does it hold? I don't know. Does it sell through? We'll kind of have to wait and see what happens there, okay? Microsoft, I'm not watching anything. Netflix, I am, right? Netflix, this chart looks like it's ready to break out, right? Look at this, down, 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 down. However, we look at the 4-hour, this is still in an uptrend, guys. Netflix is one of the only beta names that's actually in an uptrend since 75, right? 75 ripped to 100. This is a pullback, right? If we break this 4-hour downtrend, I'm looking for longs today. I really like this. Just we have to see some sort of momentum confirmation. Once we see that off the open, big 5-minute candle breaking out of this, we can look for longs back into 100, okay? But I do like Netflix for longs. Let's see if we can get over that previous day high, maybe over this 92.50. That can confirm the breakout. We can at least look for longs back into 94. And then from there, if we're breaking out of this flag, we can see much, much higher on this. So I am watching Netflix for longs today. It's the only name I like for longs, all right, if we break out of that level. AMD as well at that 209 bounce, okay? NVDA rejected the 180 supply. We talked about this 180 supply. It reclaimed for a bit, could have scalped 180 into 181, but it wound up failing. All right, it's back at demand. 176 is demand, right? This is the bounce from Thursday, and 174. Those are my two levels of demand on NVIDIA, 176, 174. Below 174, we can sell back into these pre-market lows from Monday at 170, okay? So if you want to look for shorts today, you can look for shorts under 176, but know that there's demand at 174. All right, 174 is the big level. This was the big pivot from March 2nd, all right? 174 here is the low from Tuesday. We break below 174, it's going back to 170, okay? Palantir, I'm not watching anything. Just so you know, it did wind up failing that 200-day SMA. I talked about this, right? Let me add it for a second so you can see. Look at that. It rejected it almost perfectly, maybe $1 away, but it got absolutely slammed and rocked off that level, okay? So Palantir at this point, for me, as long as we're under 200, this is bearish. And if we get back under 148 was my big level, if you guys remember back here from November, right? We get back under 148, this is going to turn heavy again and sell back into the 120s, 130s, okay? Just because there's a war going on doesn't mean that Palantir is still not very overvalued. It is, okay? It's still very overvalued and it's trading at like 100, I think it was like 100 times sales, okay? That's a lot, all right? So Palantir, I'm not really watching anything. I just want you to understand the bias there. My bias level is 148. We sell below 148. This is going to turn into a short, okay? All right, so that's my watch for today. Thanks for joining, everyone. I'll see you on live.